Well, good morning. This is Ian R. Crane. It's the morning of Wednesday, 29th of July 2019. And the title of this morning's broadcast should be extremely disturbing for the vast majority of people in the UK. Prisoner A0305EK, otherwise known as Lynn Thayer, is currently on hunger strike in solitary confinement in Bronzefield prison, Ashford, Middlesex. This is a prison that's administered by the French service company, Sodexo, and of course all our prison systems and justice systems have been privatised, and they are now run by ostensibly Sodexo, Serco and G4S. And there's no such thing as compassion or humanity in the British justice system anymore, of course. It is there purely to provide for the corporatocracy. And like the water companies, which I discussed on Monday, they are literally fleecing the British public purse and shunting those profits either offshore or into the offshore bank accounts of the outrageously remunerated senior leadership within these companies. Although it isn't really leadership, they simply do what they're told by the global corporatists. So Lynn was picked up in Cornwall, taken to Bronzefield, where she now awaits unlawful extradition to France. And to add insult to injury, and to demonstrate the degree to which the British justice system has effectively been destroyed, a writ of habeas corpus was served to the courts last Friday. Now, under the court's own rules, once a writ of habeas corpus, i.e. the request for an urgent hearing before a judge to release somebody who has been wrongfully or unlawfully imprisoned, has to be heard immediately. And under the court's own rules, it doesn't matter whether that writ is submitted by a member of the legal profession or anyone else, provided it is submitted in the appropriate format, which doesn't mean a form, it just means the appropriate wording. Then the writ must be accepted and it must be heard before a judge. Well, for the past 4 days now, the British justice system has done everything it can to block that hearing from taking place. And it's thanks to the tenacity of John Smith of the Common Law Courts that yesterday he finally got an acknowledgement that the writ must be heard in the form that it has been submitted, and one hopes that the British justice system will finally do the right thing, and a time and date will be set for that hearing, and it should be set as at the earliest possible opportunity, and hopefully then common sense and true justice will prevail and Lynn Thayer will be released, because there is absolutely not a shred of doubt in my mind, having sat through the appeal hearing with Judge Michael Supperstone, that there is not a shred of meaningful evidence to justify extraditing Lynn to France. This is extraordinary rendition. This is the use of the European arrest warrant that was put in place to effectively deal with terrorism. And Lynn is the other end of the spectrum, because all she has done is worked as a scientist to develop an extremely effective treatment that has reportedly even cured forms of cancer and indeed other debilitating illnesses. So this is Lynn Thayer's alleged crime. Yet common sense cannot prevail in a corporatocracy, because this is the king, and certainly, anywhere near London, then the inhuman corporatist lobbyists do their utmost to ensure that the judiciary and, of course, Parliament does their bidding. And of course, in Parliament, they achieved that by the appointment of the Remembrancer, which very, very few people even know exists. And the Remembrancer is appointed by the City of London to have the ear of government and of MPs and make sure that any House of Commons business actually protects the interests of the corporatocracy. That is an unelected person in Parliament representing the corporations in the City of London. So we know what we're up against here, but if people sit back and let it all go on around them, then they are by default complicit in an inhuman corporatocracy that will penalise, imprison, and indeed take the lives of those who try to do the right thing. And of course, it has to be acknowledged that Lynn and David are certainly in better shape than Dr. Jeffrey Bradstreet, whose premises were raided in the USA the day after the MHRA raided the premises of Immunobiotech in the UK. And the day after that, Dr. Jeffrey Bradstreet was found face down in the South Carolina River with a bullet wound in his chest, which of course was logged as suicide. But nonetheless, we have an opportunity here to get behind David and Lynn Noakes, David Noakes and Lynn Thayer, and do whatever it is that we can do to secure her release. In the short term, then apart from coming along and joining me on Friday at Southwark Crown Court in London to support David, more of which in a second, but at the very least, we can write to the new Home Secretary, which is Priti Patel, and the new Justice Minister, whose name escapes me for a second, Robert Buckland, who is a QC. He's also an MP, but he's a QC. So you know that he's going to do whatever bidding he is instructed to do on behalf of the corporatocracy, because he's part of the club. But nonetheless, call them, write to them, and I will put it again, or I've already put it in the title of the video, but this is an incredibly significant and important case, and prisoner A0305EK is representing all that is right about humanity, about people who have devoted their lives to try to do the best for wider humanity and are not simply on a payroll serving the corporatocracy. So, this is Big Pharma and the MHRA, the Medicines and Healthcare Regulatory Agency, which is a pseudo-government department staffed by ex-executives of Big Pharma, or executives on secondment from Big Pharma, and failed police officers who decide that they can actually get more money in the private corporatocracy and can do the bidding of the MHRA without obviously having to engage any kind of thought process as to whether they're doing the right thing or not. So hopefully justice will prevail at the Habeas Corpus hearing. Then on Friday, David will be at Southwark Crown Court, where he's up again before Justice Nicholas Lorraine-Smith, where the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, and the MHRA attempt to fleece David of everything to ensure that at no point ever again would he consider actually challenging the supremacy of the pharmaceutical industry and work towards developing a product which has tremendous efficacy and could end the suffering of millions in a very, very short timescale. But of course, the pharmaceutical industry needs that revenue. There's no money in sickness, but there's a shed load of money. There's no money in health, but there's a shed load of money in sickness. And Big Pharma just want to keep you and everyone on the revenue stream. So the sooner that you go down to your GP and sign up for a course of medication, which will of course lead to more medication to deal with the effects of the first set of medication, they've got you. Absolutely gotcha. And of course, those who are over 60, they've got you even more, because your prescriptions are free to you. But of course, Big Pharma charges the taxpayer an arm and a leg for that privilege. But they know fine well that those over 60 would rather, in many cases, take the medication that is prescribed than do their own research and look for the natural cures, which might cost them a little bit more, but you know, basically would obviously ultimately probably improve their health greatly anyway. So, somebody's just alluded to the fact that I'm a communist. Am I hell? Come on, get a grip and start actually looking at the course of videos that I've produced over 15 years and decide for yourself. You know, you cannot put a label on me and many other people. You cannot put a label on us, because we don't have any kind of political allegiance. The only thing that motivates us is to do the right thing for humanity. And, you know, ultimately, people know what is the right thing, and they know what is being done purely on the back of this. And apparently someone has corrected it and said, Ian Crane's not a communist, but Jeremy Corbyn is. I'm not going to go there this morning. So, really important that we have the court rammed at Southwark Crown Court. It's adjacent, it's on the bank of the Thames, the South Bank, adjacent to London Bridge Station. Court session starts at 10 o'clock, so we can convene outside the courts at 9:30. And let's make sure that every single seat that is available in that court is packed, and that Justice Nicholas Lorraine-Smith knows, if he doesn't already, that this is a case of enormous public interest, and hopefully he will have an attack of conscience. You know, he alluded in the first hearing that he was presiding over a court of law, not a court of morality. Well, I ask you, Judge, to reflect on that statement, because once you compromise your morality, you have effectively compromised your fundamental humanity on behalf of an inhuman corporatocracy. So absolutely crucial that you do the right thing. Well, elsewhere, what's going on? Well, I'm continually amused by the unfolding Extinction, Rebellion, Greta Thunberg drama. And of course, the latest is that Greta Thunberg, who won't fly because she doesn't want to contribute to any greater carbon emissions, but she's going to take a trip across the Atlantic on a multi-million-pound racing yacht owned by a member of the Monaco royal family, and where she will be accompanied by a documentary crew, and obviously, you know, everybody now jumping on the bandwagon. And remarkably, the sails of this yacht have already been produced with the appropriate logos. And if anybody has missed it, look at the logo that is now almost permanently behind the head of Greta Thunberg or anybody who's speaking on behalf of Extinction Rebellion, and then compare it with the logo that is behind Bill Gates' head in any public appearance he makes. So, you know, this is the corporatocracy's attempt to steer humanity down the path of their new Green Deal, which is basically to capitalize on everything, to take Peter Brabeck's observation from 2005 that water should not be regarded as a human right, it's a commodity and should be treated as such and sold as such. Then the game plan is now to literally commodify nature so that anything and everything has a price. And basically all you got to do is know the right people, or sociopaths, and then you can literally market nature. And you know, how long before, you know, coming into a field there's a toll gate, or you know, anytime you want to go out of the house there's a toll. But of course you won't need to physically have a toll, because you'll have your smartphone in your pocket, you'll be able to be tracked, and you know, there'll be a cost to everywhere you go. and then the appropriate amount will be debited directly from your bank account. You can see what's coming a mile off if you just stop and pause. And that's what I'm going to be encouraging people to do over the next month. Stop and pause. August is the month when hopefully people will take a break, take some time with their families, and take a look at that family, and take a look at your children and your grandchildren, and reflect upon the legacy that we collectively are leaving those young people. Because basically it's not something that I think we can be proud of, but we have an opportunity to redress the situation, but we have to get involved. So think about it over the month of August. Do some research. Go down the proverbial rabbit holes. Look, there's many videos out there, and I mean, obviously follow whatever thread catches your attention. But there's some tremendous videos up on the Alternative View YouTube channel, and just browse through, look at the titles that grab you, and then take some time and reflect. And then come September, we'll have a better idea of where Boris is going with his attempt to get Britain out of the EU. We'll have a better idea of whether we're likely to have an election being called on the 31st of October, when it becomes apparent that Boris hasn't succeeded in getting Britain out of the EU, and the can gets kicked down the road once again for somebody else to pick up that poison chalice. But, there are many battles to fight, because even if we do come out of the EU, then obviously, we are going to be assaulted by rampant corporatism. And it is only by grassroots, genuine grassroots activism, driven by people within communities, not taking an agenda from on high, but picking up issues which are important to them, and then holding their elected representatives at every level of the process, holding their feet to the fire. Because if you don't, then what the establishment has planned is sortition. And who are they using to push the agenda of sortition? Well, Greta Thunberg and Extinction Rebellion. Sortition is a form of government where basically you have community assemblies, and of course there's no election, because allegedly everybody has the opportunity to participate in the community assembly. And of course it is wide open to manipulation, like our electoral system isn't. But this sortition is literally a license for the global corporatists to establish a compliant form of government that they present as grassroots, when in fact it is anything but. So if sortition is a new word in your vocabulary, then I absolutely encourage you to do some research over the coming weeks and take a look at the agenda here, because whether you want to believe it or not, but the gullible people who have signed up to Extinction Rebellion have not done their research. And this is evidence. You just go along, talk to them, and they are extremely one-dimensional, and they will literally trot out the palliatives that have come to them from Extinction Rebellion briefing meetings or briefing documents. So, we are seeing Agenda 21, now renamed Agenda 2030, being rolled out. And we are at an absolutely crucial juncture in terms of deciding how humanity does or doesn't progress from this point. And there are those, of course, who think humanity shouldn't progress beyond this point, and that within the next 20 years, those who don't accept the imposition of the microchip in their brain should effectively be euthanized. And an unfortunate observation, but perhaps in 15 years or so, Greta Thunberg will reflect, and she will either perhaps consider that she was abused, being pushed as the poster girl for this new global corporatist agenda, or she'll be calling for euthanasia of everybody over 60. Have a great month. I will be back with you on, I believe it's Monday 2nd of September or thereabouts, or Wednesday 2nd of September. No, I think it's Monday 2nd of September. Anyway, I will be back with you on the first day after the 1st of September, whether it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, whatever. But I'm going to take a break. I'm going to use that time to do some research. I'm also going to use that time, obviously, to prepare for the forthcoming 5G tour. And tickets for all the 5G Is It Safe events are now available on the Alternative View website. That's alternativeview.co.uk. And then, of course, we have AV 10.1, which is shaping up to be an extremely interesting event. And I'm pleased to say there's now less than 100 tickets left for that. I think we're going to be a packed house again with some outstanding presentations and a new presenter on the scene, Gary Fraun. And what Gary has to share with the audience at AV 10.1, I think, will rock their world and maybe set off a whole new line of personal inquiry. So have a great month. And obviously, if you're down in London at Southwark Crown Court on Friday, I will see you there. Otherwise, see you in September. Take care now.